Welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are available in podcast form. Find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Hit us up at dj@artistfirst.com. And now here they are, your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And here we are. Thank you very much, Z-Man. It is your host. and she's Margaret.
Hi.
And I'm going to remain anonymous because, at the Witness Protection Program and all that stuff. And and welcome back. We whenever the show is rebroadcast, who knows? But it was a nice long holiday weekend, and much of the world had one of the days off, bounding that weekend. And so today was like a triple or quadruple Monday.
True.
And I love quadruple Mondays because absolutely nothing gets done until noon, and then people panic, and the whole afternoon is spent scrambling around like mad. Which is fun. But the interesting thing about the holiday that we just celebrated, which was the 4th of July holiday here in the States, is it's about independence. And our topic tonight is a related thing called autonomy. And autonomy, and you ought to know me. The autonomy is how you derive your independence. If you have autonomy, you can make your own decisions. It's like when you were 16 or 15 and you thought, well, when I grow up and get to be 18 and I get to be independent, I can live on my own, I can do what I want, I'll be living the life. Little do you know that the life of Mom's basement was much nicer. But no, it's not. I think all of us, or rather, there is the seed or the desire for autonomy in every person's soul. We all want to be independent, and we all want to be free. We all want to be able to make our own decisions.
Yes, this is true. We believe it or not, you want to be an adult, making your own choices.
I don't believe it. Adulting is not all it's cracked up to be.
That's what a lot of people say, until there's no freedom whatsoever.
Well, true. And the interesting thing about these intertwined concepts, which we talked about, independence and autonomy, is the other thing that people talk about is they want to have sort of the power to make their own decisions. And power is another thing which is kind of very close and near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. Human beings both desire autonomy, which is the freedom to make your own decisions, and power, and they kind of get the two confused. And that's our topic tonight. We kind of snuck up on it, but we're going to discuss the kind of the confusion that arises between power and autonomy. And I think one of the basic confusions is that people think that their autonomy is somehow dependent on others obeying them, and it's sort of a contradiction in terms. If you say, well, everyone should be independent, but you should listen to me, or you should do what I tell you to do, it automatically sets up that conflict, because the we've talked about this many times over the course of the Soul of the Everyman's many times. Your freedom to you is as precious as another's freedom is to them. And when you when you think your freedom is somehow dependent on other people not being free or being less than human, let's say, or less than, you've got to have a class of people who are free and then people who have to listen to those people, and you start to have a hierarchy. This is antithetical. It builds up tremendous conflict and tension, and it's oftentimes the very root of wars, is where you have people who think that their autonomy as a nation, for argument's sake, is somehow dependent on everyone else's subservience.
That was the way it was run before, where you had warlords, and it was whoever was strongest was going to be the one who ruled. And people think that being in that position means that you're autonomous.
Yes.
And it is the furthest thing from the truth. Autonomy is independent of all of that. You can function as an individual if you believe and know yourself as an individual, functioning and independent of what's going on around you. You don't need someone to tell you what to do or how to think, but you function because you have skills and you know what your limits are. Autonomous actions stem from that knowledge. It has nothing to do with whether or not you tell people what to do and then they have to follow through. People, for some reason, believe that is autonomy, and they mistake in it because that's power.
Well, there are words that are related that get confused too. There's autonomy and autocracy. The singularity of individual rule versus the rule of oneself. It gets conflated in people's minds. Certainly, with absolute power, you as an individual are autonomous, but in that kind of unitary universe, if there are any others in the universe, they are automatically subservient and then therefore not autonomous. And that works for about a femtosecond, and then people get mad at you, and they want to, warlords are called such because they're at war all the time. There's conflict immediately if you have any sort of society, because once you go beyond one individual who feels that they are autonomous and all others are to listen to them, you run smack into, well, I don't want to, I don't want to listen to you, and therefore you need to apply force, or you need to apply, some sort of power over, and therefore deny the other autonomy. And you can get to the point, of course, of chattel slavery, or of basically do what I say or die. So it becomes immediately sort of a dictatorship, and certainly the furthest thing, except for the one person, the autocrat, the furthest thing from autonomy for every other person in that society.
Right. We, as I think I said this before, the Western world, especially the United States, is about the only one that I know of that is trying to allow people to have their own individuality and autonomy. Most of the older cultures, I said this before, you're not taught independence at all. You're taught to be subservient to something greater. And they tell you what that greater thing is. You do not choose. You're supposed to follow the dictates of what your culture is telling you. And frankly, it's, in my eyes, that's a form of slavery. because you're using the younger generation, their energy for your own purposes.
And the takeaways there are that those let's not just say the society that does that is a society that is stealing from the future in some regard. They're looking at, as you say, taking the younger people and putting them into a position of less power or less autonomy, and perpetuating that system. But I think the more significant point there that you said was that the systems which rely on that, which rely on the denial of autonomy to anyone else, are really based on the system depends on a certain amount of defensive fear. In other words, the granting of autonomy is a threat to that system. If you say that the system requires all folks to get up in the morning and make French toast every morning, and if somebody says, well, I want bacon and eggs, it's not just autonomy. We say, okay, well, today we'll have bacon and eggs. No, it's a threat to the system, and it becomes something which has to be ruthlessly stamped out, because the system requires that we have everybody do the same thing at the same time. Right. It's that unitary system, and it can be seen in certainly in some Asian cultures where it's very much focused on the hierarchy, the ruler, leader. Go ahead. Sorry.
The ones on the top tell you what's supposed to be good for society. It's as simple as that. When China had their one-child rule, do you remember that? Where what they put into law, they basically said all couples can only have one child. And they put into law basically the if you had the one child, they would give you a piece of land. There was all these perks that went with it. But if you had more than one, then you don't get that. But the thing they didn't factor in, of course, was the fact that in that society, males are looked on favorably than females. And the push to have a male child was so great that many female babies had died, were killed.
Or abandoned.
So that this can happen. This is what it is to live under the dictates of that kind of rule. If, honestly, horrendous, but that was what that particular society had done.
Well, and so the consequences of conflating these two are can be severe and life-threatening even.
Well, the thing that you have to first of all acknowledge is the fact that you want your people to be autonomous and not dependent. To have autonomous, in other words, independent thought and action. That is a different society completely.
Right. But if we go back to first principles, I think people do want to be autonomous, and we can bring it up in a little bit. But the basic desire for autonomy gets corrupted, and that's what happens. These societies don't set out to cause horrible consequences.
Some do.
Okay, people don't set out to cause horrible consequences, but the desire for autonomy seems, and this is sort of where the thin edge of the knife, it seems to say that I should be powerful enough to make what my desires or whatever it is that I want to do happen. And there's the problem is with a lack of imagination, you only see one way to do that. You say, well, everyone should listen to me. Whatever I say should go, and that gives me autonomy. But it falls down very quickly into many, many, many different examples of totalitarian societies, or societies which, are very rigid and inflexible, because it does not consider the other as a equally worthy possessor of autonomy.
You're not equal.
Well, you're not equal. And so those systems fail at that level. They say, well, I must have more power. If I don't have my autonomy, the only way to get it is to getting more power, becoming a warlord, becoming the top dog in the society, whatever it is, until I reach this pinnacle where I have all the power unitarily, and no other individual has any. And that works for a very small set of individuals, and it's miserable for everybody else that's under that rule. And then you have conflict and many, many bloody wars. And the other side of it is when you talk about autonomy as being a universal principle where everyone wants to be autonomous, and the only way to organize anything beyond, let's talk about a small unit. You have first of all, you have one person. Well, one person is autonomous by default, but then there's no one else to talk to. Then you have two people. The power structure which works best is that both people are autonomous, but yet because these two people are autonomous, there will be conflict. I want the cookie, you want the cookie, there's only one cookie. The structure which evolves from that, if it isn't power over, is very much a power sharing or a respecting of autonomy. And that's where you have that dividing line. When autonomy becomes when you have a society where autonomy is the most highly respected property in the society, like at the ideal we talk about in the West, you end up with societies where the free exercise of interaction is the key. I have a cookie. I would like to have a computer. So I will trade you my cookie for someone who has a computer. And as long as both sides are happy, autonomy is preserved. It isn't, I have a cookie, you have a computer, give me your computer and I'm going to eat this cookie. It's like, it becomes, that's the warlord society where I have more power than you, therefore I can have all the things.
Right. When a society values an individual, okay, that is the only time you would be able to have autonomy per person. Each person. You're basically encouraged to find the very best in you and bring it out. Other places, they don't do this.
Right, and you can find the abstraction though is just that concept, the idea of power getting conflated with, in essence,
control is conflated with, or the ability to control.
That's better.
Is defined as being autonomous, and it's not true.
Right. It's only true in the most unitary sense. It's true
in a selfish world where you're yes. the only thing that matters. You are the only thing that matters. So everything around you has got to bow to you.
Right.
Everything.
And I think that's the key of it is that once you say that everyone is equal, or that everyone has certainly the equal desire to be autonomous, you can't preserve that ideal and have this idea that my autonomy is dependent on others bowing to my will. because those two things just don't work together. And the confusion is what causes a tremendous amount of conflict and disaster in the world.
No, it's basically choosing that you want to define what autonomy means. And what it means is I matter and you don't.
Right. So the underlying it all is the idea that the other and I and the other are not equal, that there's a power over, power under. And as soon as you say that I am equal, that we are all individuals and of the same worth as far as individuality is concerned, you can't have that power over, power under struggle. We've talked about it in many different shows about this idea that you define your group as the people who, you're inside of your warlord or your village are the people who matter, and everyone outside, all others, all those who are not part of your clique or not part of your warlord team are to be considered less than.
Right. Mostly it becomes a state where one group, and you see it in high school, for goodness sake, the people who are supposedly on the top or the popular are the ones that are lording it over the rest.
Or trying to, at least.
Well,
yeah.
Trying to, and not really, and not all of them maybe do this, but they're young and they're trying to say, well, I'm better than you. Basically choosing to participate in that power struggle where they can take the energy from other people so they feel good about themselves. Denigrating another person makes them feel better. And it's it's a very, very animal level of interaction.
Well, it's power chakra or the baser chakras for sure. But I want to stop you for because that's the interesting thing right there is that these systems appear to only work when there are others to oppress or others to denigrate or others to make lesser. And you wonder, though, why anyone would want to be in this oppressed state. There is a sort of perverse attraction to a powerful person who tells you what to do because it absolves you of a certain level of responsibility.
Yeah. No, the people do not want to answer for their own actions. They don't want to be responsible for their actions. They want to say, well, I'm part of this group and this is what we do. And if we are doing it.
Right. So there's that power. There's this attraction of power, but yet there's this converse sort of I want to be autonomous. And part of the dividing line, why people flop over into the power side or to the subservient side, is what you just said. Responsibility. If you're the other part of autonomy, which everyone hates, is that I get to determine whatever it is. I'm a self-determining. I do but you have to take the lumps.
Yes.
You get the gains and you get the rewards and the punishments. You get you get the gains and the losses, and the attraction of this power structure is that maybe I can just get the gains, at least what they're willing to give me, without the responsibility, without the individual, oh, you did that wrong, it's now your fault kind of thing. I think that's the attraction of those systems. That's why you wonder why people go into these gigantic organizations where, like societies rather, where they all are so subservient without rebelling. And it's this idea that as long as I get my meal or whatever it is, I get my shelter, and I just have to do what they tell me to do and not think and not be responsible. There's an attraction. There's laziness, right? It's sort of an attraction to that.
Well, it's feeding all your baser natures. You don't have to fight for what you need to survive. As long as you're riding along with the rest of this crew and it seems like everybody can get a piece of it, then that's fine. You're not going to make waves. You're just going to continue going along and try to figure out if there's a way to get a little bit more than anybody else.
So what people do is they sell their autonomy for safety,
Yes.
or perceived safety, and the folks who kind of set up these, let's call, warlord or dictatorial societies, they usually promise something like, just
Oh, yeah.
follow me and everything will be wonderful and you'll get 3 meals and I'll let you come out on Sundays for fresh air. I mean, if I give up my responsibility or the potential negatives of acting on your own, I will be safer. It's sort of also fear. There's fear in wanting to be the most powerful person, but there's also fear in kind of putting yourself down there, feeling more safe when somebody just tells you what to do. I think that's why these things grow and balloon to whole countries and whole societies.
Well, I mean, it's a very much a feudal system at that point. You've got your plot of land that you're supposed to work, and you grow your food, and you give a certain percentage to the.
But I think that true, that's a system, and there are many. But I think there's an attraction there. I think that people. I think that being responsible for yourself is scary.
The brave of heart usually would rather be free than to do it that way, to give up everything just for the idea that you're going to be taken care of.
But I think you're right. But I think that when you see these societies grow to very large, huge, gigantic societies which are based on this principle of power over, power under, it's because there are fewer brave than there are those who would willingly or perhaps at least knowingly sell their autonomy for security.
And the truth of the matter is, if you say something about being independent, going against whatever the culture is trying to teach you, trying to tell you that you need to be dependent, you'll get it coming at you in a couple different ways. You get it from the hierarchy because you're talking against what it is they're trying to teach you, and you get it from the people around you because they don't want you to be free.
Well, that's another consequence. You once these things are set up, there's grave penalties, both from the, like you said, the people who are saying, well, you're rocking the boat. Why, if you're so great, get out, kind of thing, or giving you a hard time for wanting to be free. And then there's, of course, the hierarchy which will try to suppress rebellion. I mean, it's seen as rebellion, right?
It's absolutely seen as rebellion, and you are a piece of for thinking that way.
But I was on the other side. Is how they even get that big. Is there's an attraction initially of a very powerful, having this sort of unitary power, and there's an attraction of giving up. There seems to be in human nature this powerful attraction to safety versus responsibility and autonomy. Safety and power over, giving up your autonomy or portions of thereof for this idea of not having to be responsible, not having to go out and get everything yourself. And I think that those two things are not necessarily totally related, but that's the powerful attraction. It's sort of a oh man, I don't know if I can do it. I'm sort of afraid of doing it on my own. Let me go find somebody in high school who's more powerful, more popular, whatever, and then become one of their, sycophants. The people inside those cliques in high school are no more free than the ones that they're denigrating, but they, like you said, it makes them feel better to be on the inside versus the outside.
Well, yeah, it's all a way of thinking. If you accept what's been put in front of you and where you're supposed to be in this hierarchy, or you reject it.
All right. And let's think about the hierarchy, and let's go back to the studio and go back and serve our great master, the master of the studio, Scott, and have some commercials too. It was a terrible segue. They're not all gems, folks.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief, Dev, is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side, as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers. The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
The Timeless Esoterica radio program with Dr. Bruce is broadcast on the 4th Monday of every month at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, on ArtistFirst.com. We explore topics including the paranormal, alien life, mysteries, conspiracies, hidden history, oddities, and much more. Each show will feature a special guest with exciting and thought-provoking discussion. Always keep an open mind, an open heart, live forever, and remember Dr. Bruce believes in you.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lyons is Book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
You are listening to The Soul of the Everyman on Artist First World Radio. Let's get back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And that was my worst segue ever. We went back through all the other segues during the break, and we listened to them all. And I'm lying. And well, that was the bad one. That was really, you can't. They're not all gems, folks. What can I say? Anyway, we're talking tonight about segues, about power and autonomy. And how people confuse the two, and I think we hit upon something at the end of the last half hour, there is an attraction to power, which you see all the time. You see people willfully kind of become part of a clique or a group because they think they're going to get something out of it, and they kind of also get this idea of safety in the group, of kind of abdicating your personal responsibility for yourself by saying, well, if the group's doing it, then I'll do it, and I have an automatic kind of I know I'm doing it right because everyone else is doing it too. It's
right. It's that reflection that's back. Well, if everyone else is doing it, this must be right.
Exactly.
But the question I would ask is, why do you want power? When you look at it, what is it that you're yearning for at that point? And I think one of the reasons why people give over their ability to be autonomous is because they don't have the confidence within themselves to realize how precious they actually are, how within you is something that can be brought forward to share with others, that others would appreciate. And they think that by going down the power route, somehow they'll be able to be accepted, which I always thought was fascinating. Because acceptance, they think if other people accept them, then they're good, they're fine. This is a powerful position if other people accept them. And it's like, no, you don't understand. You've got to accept yourself first. And once you accept yourself first, everyone else accepts you. The funny thing is, whenever you meet someone, you can always feel when there is this, how do I say this push to appreciate what that person is because they themselves are comfortable in their own skin, or someone who hasn't accepted themselves is uncomfortable and radiates that discomfort. So you immediately fall into this power play because you get the feeling of, well, there's something wrong here. They're like subservient because they don't feel worthy in themselves.
Like always, you've got 17 great concepts in there. I love it. The acceptance versus rejection thing is such a powerful motivator. People hate to be rejected. And it's not just safety. It is exactly that. It is the, I don't feel confident in myself. I haven't accepted myself. And conversely, when you mentioned this too, when you have accepted yourself, that's an extremely attractive position. The confidence of the power of your own convictions, or the power of being completely autonomous and owning it, owning who you are, finding yourself, is
you're owning your own truth.
Oh, exactly. And when you get there, you will find that people will be attracted to that too, but they're oftentimes still looking for a warlord, and you have to say, no, I'm not going to lead you. You can certainly watch and see what I'm doing. So this is also part of human nature, is that seeing someone who accepts themselves is incredibly intoxicating and powerful. But when you haven't accepted yourself and you don't know what to do, you oftentimes will run towards someone who seems powerful, who will tell you what to do, as the negative side of that. You know, people look for gurus. People look for the 10 steps to success, whatever it is. And they don't realize that the step 0 is the one you just said, is accepting yourself, knowing that you are a precious thing, that your autonomy is an expression of your own individual spark, and that once you have accepted who you are, and this is the old finding yourself, you will find that it's an anathema to give up that precious you to anyone else's control.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing.
Yes, and usually you don't take that step unless there's been some kind of friction where it's forcing you to look within.
Mm.
I know that in a society that is trying to teach dependence, you are not supposed to be adventurous that way, trying to find out who you are. We're going to tell you who you are and what you're going to do, and how you're going to do it, and how long you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do what we tell you. And any independent soul would bristle at something like that. But it does exist. And I know for myself, I had to reach deep within to be able to come to that point of accepting who I am, regardless of what other people are telling me who I am. Because internally I understood this is not the truth of who I am. There was a lot of layer upon layer of illusion and a lot of dangling of a carrot in front of your nose, like, well, don't you want to be able to have a lot of money and do whatever you want to do? Well, then you have to go do this, like we tell you. Then you'll get it.
Again, the rejection versus acceptance is used as a carrot and a stick. And also we know better than you, do this and you'll get X. There are many, many both subtle and less than subtle ways of control that are used to quash or crush this individuality. Everyone hates being rejected. Well, if you are an individual in a society which is trying to exert control over individuals, there's rejection in expressing your individuality.
Right.
And the acceptance is in giving it up. So there's this dynamic which is self-perpetuating.
The core of that, though, is, and it's underlying all the behavior, is we are not going to love you unless you do what we tell you to do. Okay? And you are taught that when you were small. So as a child, all you want to do is please your parents. You want them to be happy with you. And when that starts, that whole process pre-verbal, it can get really sticky because there are those that are not as independent and they just want to be loved. So if I can get approval by doing this, I'll do it.
Yes, and there's that force is what is the self-perpetuation of these systems. But I think the nice bright line that we drew is this idea that that your own individual acceptance of your own individuality, knowing who you are, is even if it started at birth almost, is still a force, because those who acquiesce, even the ones who appear to be quite happy in these systems, always have an inner hidden voice which tells them that they're not happy.
You're not enough.
The idea that the fully realized human being, let's call it enlightenment, because that's in essence what we're doing, is getting to the idea of accepting and knowing oneself, and accepting and knowing that you have both the ability to succeed and fail. You have a unique spark which has as its basic nature freedom and free will and the consequences thereof. Your actions have meaning, purpose, consequences, have the true nature of your own expression within them, but you have to own them. All that is the scary power of autonomy, and people get scared of it when they don't understand who they are. They get scared of it when they understand that truly their actions have meaning and purpose, and they will fall into these systems of relinquishing autonomy, relinquishing your spark, kind of covering it up and allowing somebody to tell you what to do. And then, yes, they become self-perpetuating. They become incredibly sticky because it benefits. There's the human nature of I'm on top, I'm getting all the power. People just love that. And if you're going to mess up you're going to be the flea in the ointment here, or however it's said. You're going to be the squeaky wheel. We are going to make sure you stop squeaking real fast because the people in power like the system that they have going.
Right. If the system has been feeding them for decades, all their lives, they don't want it disturbed. This works for me. So you're supposed to do what I tell you to do. You bow down and you do all these things I tell you, and you're such a good little girl. Thank you very much. You're bringing honor to the family.
Honor to the family.
And which means that if you didn't do it, you are dishonoring the family.
Right.
But the doing it part is the sticky part because you are not necessarily taught the higher value of who you are spiritually. What they're talking about is this is feeding us. You're going to be bringing this in for us. Whatever it is you're doing has to be given directly to us. And we'll pat you on the head. Right. And it's not you that's doing it, by the way. It's the family. Family's doing this for you.
And these are the many abuses that come from these power structures.
Yes, and you get that throughout all power structures. That's the reason I'm bringing that up.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You have to be aware when your spark is being smothered.
Or being vampired.
Fed upon?
Fed upon.
Yeah.
I mean, this is interesting, sort of an aside, but these power structures are always parasitic. Because those whose power is derived from the enslavement at whatever level of other autonomous individuals giving up in order so that they be in power, they're living as parasites. Why? Because they really don't have the power they claim. All these power structures are looking to replace a supreme being, whether you call it God or whatever you want to. They want to be God to these people.
Yes.
And in one sense, even God doesn't want to be God. God isn't an autocrat. If you look at the power structure of our Creator, almost the very first thing, is He gives us our freedom. Right. You can reject me. You can curse me. You can walk away from me. I'll be unhappy. But if God forces you to worship Him, then it's a power thing. And that's not what we have here. Parasitism means that you need from those you dominate. Well, a truly all-powerful being needs nothing. In fact, the all-powerful have no problem with granting you your freedom because they need nothing. The parasitically powerful need you, and they never want you to know how much you are needed.
Right.
So this rebellion cuts at the root of these systems because it really is a fear-based system where if these people don't worship me or feed me, then I'll have to do it on my own, and I don't want that. So the all-powerfulness of these systems is a phony, fake all-powerfulness because it's actually parasitic. If the base is taken away, they are nothing.
Right. If you do not give over to them, then they fall. But the thing is, if you do not give over to them and they are like a warlord, they threaten to take your life, you have to realize that this is not a true autonomous situation. You are just caught in this, not caught, what's the word? What you're witnessing is something that is a far cry from true independence of thought and being. These people need you in order to survive. And is that the kind of relationship you really want to have?
Right. I mean, take it down to what you said before, the cliques in high school. The popular kids are parasites on those who worship them, quote unquote. The illusion of a warlord is that they have this power of, let's say, life and death. But in truth, they only get it from those who give it to them really willingly in most cases, because they think they're going to get something for it. And once you have given over your will, given over your autonomy, these people are powerful. And they do have the ability to oppress and to threaten your life and so on and so on. But that's why the exercise of true autonomy is such an anathema, because it not only cuts directly at their dependence, but it reveals it. It exposes their dependence. It shows that not only are they not powerful. Nelson Mandela, it showed that the system of apartheid was not only not powerful, but that in rebellion, even in the face of all the penalties that they had imposed upon this man, completely broke the system. And this is where totalitarian systems are broken by those who refuse to submit. It's why they are so instantly made into enemy number one.
Well, it's just the reality is those systems that are depending upon other people to support them are fragile.
Fragile. Yes.
There is no inner strength that will carry it through. And the minute that illusion is revealed, it can be taken apart very easily. And realizing who you are is more than what talents you have. People think you have to take stock in terms of, well, I can do this and I have this talent and I can, contribute this. And it's like, no. Who are you as a human being? And the incredible strength that comes with touching into all those aspects of who you are. You are not solely a thinking being. In fact, many times the thoughts that go through your head distract from the strength and the inner peace that is within you. So to take it and quell the fear, because the thoughts start winding up when you begin to be afraid. Understand where the fear is rising and give it no power. Do not choose to engage in fear, because you are more than fear, much more.
Yes, and this is where you get the knowing of self and the true autonomy. and this is where these systems break when you allow individuals. On the other side, when we're really talking about those who are true individuals, who are beings, who are knowing who they are, knowing themselves, they have an incredible attractiveness to all others, but they're almost universally they're trying not to be a leader or yet another parasite. Right. Look at your great spiritual leaders, Buddha, Jesus, many others, where the systems that they were showing to others was a way to realize their autonomy, realize their relationship to the Father, realize that they are all children of God, that I come from the Father, and so do you. I am the Son of Man, and so are you.
It's the internal realization that you belong to someone far greater than what humans consider important or powerful. You belong to a family that is so broad and deep and loving that it allows you the freedom to choose. And you can choose anything.
And once you realize that, those will come. The people will come to you looking for you to lead. It's always when you become this realized individual, people will come to you because it's attractive. But almost every one of these realized individuals doesn't set up a power structure like we get over here, that we get with the dependent dictators. Because they're, as you said, they've realized that their power is to the spirit, that they're belonging, they need nothing from others, that they are uniquely individuals in relationship with spirit, and that all you're doing when someone comes to you and says, teach me how to do this, is that you are this. You are not my servant. You're not lesser than me. This is the true enlightenment of spirituality that you see in all the great leaders, all great spiritual leaders. Yes, unfortunately, almost every one of these systems end up in a power structure where people are subservient because people just don't get it.
Well, they feel safer in that structure.
Yes.
They think that as long as I check these boxes, that must mean that I'm making progress.
Right, and it's unfortunate because it's part of the basics of human nature, is that we are all too willing to give up our autonomy for this illusion of safety or acceptance.
Acceptance.
Anyway, let's accept that we're going to do better, or at least try to do better, and be our own autonomous individuals, that we are going to maintain our relationship with spirit and eschew those dictators because they need us more than we need them. And I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.